Welcome to the Economy of Nations, the podcast where history's greatest empires come alive. Join us as we uncover how nations built their wealth, shaped the world, and left legacies that still influence our lives today. Picture this. The year is 1453. You're standing outside the mighty walls of Constantinople. Cannons roar, smoke fills the air, and the great Byzantine capital, a city thought to be impregnable, is falling. Ottoman banners rise above its towers, and from this moment forward, the world will never be the same. Constantinople becomes Istanbul, and the Ottoman Empire steps into its golden age. But how did a small Anatolian principality grow into one of the longest-lasting, most powerful empires in history? One that stretched across 3 continents and lasted over 6 centuries. Today, we explore the Ottoman Empire, a story of trade, wealth, armies, and culture that shaped the modern world in ways you may not realize. Let's go back to the beginning. The Ottomans started in the late 1200s, a small Turkic tribe led by Osman, from whom the name Ottoman comes. At first, they were just one of many groups carving out space in the crumbling lands of the Seljuk Turks and the weakened Byzantine Empire. But they had something others didn't: geography and timing. They sat at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, near trade routes that connected the Silk Road with the Mediterranean. To be an Ottoman meant living at a hinge point of the world, where merchants, ideas, and armies constantly moved. Imagine yourself in Bursa, one of the early Ottoman capitals, in the 1300s. Markets are buzzing with traders selling silk from Persia, spices from India, and goods carried from distant China. Farmers bring grain, shepherds sell wool, and artisans hammer out swords, textiles, and pottery. The Ottomans are not yet the empire they will become, but the foundations are being laid. They are organizing their society, taxing trade, and building alliances through marriage and conquest. Slowly, steadily, they expand. And then comes the great turning point: the fall of Constantinople in 1453 under Sultan Mehmed II, known as Mehmed the Conqueror. This is more than just the capture of a city. It is the rebirth of an empire. Think about it. Constantinople had been the jewel of the Byzantine Empire, the gateway between East and West. By taking it, the Ottomans didn't just gain a capital, they gained control of one of the most important trade hubs in the world. Goods flowing from Asia had to pass through Ottoman lands. Ships entering or leaving the Black Sea had to deal with Ottoman tariffs. The empire had, quite literally, positioned itself as the toll booth of global trade. Now imagine walking through Istanbul in the 1500s under Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent. The skyline is dotted with newly built mosques, domes glinting in the sun, minarets piercing the sky. The Grand Bazaar is alive with color and sound. Merchants from Venice haggle over silk. Jewish traders bring knowledge of finance. Armenian craftsmen offer carpets. Arab scholars debate philosophy. The empire is a mosaic of cultures, faiths, and peoples. And at its center is wealth, drawn from every direction. But what made the Ottoman economy so powerful? First, geography. They controlled the Dardanelles and the Bosporus, the 2 narrow straits that connect the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Whoever held those waters controlled trade between Europe and Asia. Second, taxation. The Ottomans mastered the art of extracting revenue without completely crushing their subjects. Farmers paid taxes in kind, artisans paid with goods or coin, and merchants paid tariffs at every port and caravan stop. The system was efficient and flexible, ensuring a steady flow of income to the sultans. Then there was agriculture, the backbone of the empire. Picture the fertile plains of Anatolia or the Nile Delta in Egypt. Wheat, barley, rice, and cotton flowed into Ottoman markets. Peasants worked the land, and through a system called the timar, land grants were given to soldiers in return for military service. This created both food security and a loyal cavalry. Unlike some empires that depended almost entirely on conquest or trade, the Ottomans had a strong agricultural base. Yet trade was their real superpower. The Silk Road, though disrupted by wars and shifting politics, still funneled goods through Ottoman lands. Caravans carrying silk, spices, and precious stones arrived in cities like Aleppo, Damascus, and Baghdad, all under Ottoman rule. From there, goods traveled to Istanbul and then by sea to Europe. The Venetians and Genoese, long masters of Mediterranean trade, found themselves negotiating with the Ottomans for access. The empire grew rich not by producing everything itself, but by taxing, facilitating, and protecting the flow of global commerce. Now let's pause, because no empire's economy is just about trade and taxes. There is also the question of money itself. The Ottomans minted coins, the akçe being the silver currency that circulated widely. Over time, as silver from the New World flooded into Europe, the Ottomans faced inflation, but for centuries, their currency was stable enough to support trade across vast distances. Think of it. A merchant in Cairo, another in Baghdad, and another in Belgrade could all use Ottoman currency in their transactions. That stability was a hidden strength. Religion also played a role in shaping the economy. Under Islamic law, certain taxes like the jizya were imposed on non-Muslims, while Muslims paid zakat and other levies. But far from stifling diversity, this system allowed Christians, Jews, and Muslims to coexist within the empire, each contributing to its economic life. Jewish refugees fleeing persecution in Spain in 1492, for example, were welcomed into Ottoman lands, bringing skills in trade, crafts, and finance. The empire was pragmatic. Wealth mattered as much as faith. And what about culture? This is where the Ottomans shine. Their economy wasn't just about money, it was about beauty. Imagine artisans in Iznik painting tiles with intricate blue patterns, or architects under Mimar Sinan constructing mosques that still awe visitors today. Wealth funded culture, and culture in turn reinforced the empire's power. The grandeur of Istanbul wasn't accidental. It was a statement of dominance, an advertisement to the world that here was the center of civilization. But let's not forget the military, for it was both a consumer and a driver of the Ottoman economy. The Janissaries, the elite infantry made up originally of Christian boys taken through the Devshirme system, had to be fed, trained, and armed. Campaigns required supplies, horses, and weapons. Conquests brought in loot and new taxable populations. War and economy were deeply intertwined. At its height in the 16th and early 17th centuries, the Ottoman Empire stretched from Hungary to Arabia, from North Africa to the Caucasus. It was a true superpower, and yet, like all empires, it faced challenges. Europe was changing. The discovery of the New World and sea routes around Africa allowed Europeans to bypass Ottoman-controlled land routes. Silver from the Americas destabilized old currency systems, and industrialization in Europe created new forms of wealth the Ottomans struggled to match. Imagine being an Ottoman official in the 1700s. You look west and see European ships circling Africa, bringing back spices and goods directly from Asia. You see factories in England producing cloth cheaper and faster than your weavers ever could. You see banks in Amsterdam and London creating financial systems more sophisticated than anything in Istanbul. Slowly, the balance shifts. By the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire was called the sick man of Europe. Wars, corruption, and debt weakened the once mighty state. European powers carved away at its territory, from Greece gaining independence to Britain and France meddling in Egypt. Railroads, once symbols of modern power, were often built with European loans that left the empire financially dependent. The toll booth of global trade had become a backwater. And yet, even in decline, the Ottomans shaped history. Their control of the Middle East set the stage for modern borders and conflicts. Their architecture still defines cities from Istanbul to Sarajevo. Their cuisine, music, and art remain woven into the cultural fabric of dozens of nations. And their legacy in trade, the idea of controlling crossroads, ports, and tariffs, is still alive in today's global economy. So what do we learn from the Ottoman story? That geography can be both a blessing and a curse. That wealth from trade can make an empire strong, but it can also make it complacent if the world shifts around it. That diversity can enrich a state, but managing it requires constant balance, and that no empire, however grand, is immune to change. The Ottomans remind us that history is not just about battles and borders, but about markets, merchants, and money. They remind us that the economy of nations is built not only on strength, but on adaptability. And perhaps most of all, they remind us that standing at the crossroads of the world is powerful, until the world finds another road. Thank you for listening to The Economy of Nations. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow and subscribe for more journeys through history's greatest empires and discover how their legacies still shape our world today.